What is it that really moves us, that brings us together? It's the gift of human imagination. We were born travelers, explorers, creators, in search of unknown paths and uncharted land, shaping the world around us. With each obstacle we overcame and every distance we closed, our ambitions grew. However, life speeds up, traffic gets denser, and urbanization is close to collapse. Looking to the skies for answers, we realized it was time to break our patterns and find a shortcut from A to B. So we focused on what really matters. A new way of mobility that moves us to a higher level, that enables us to travel freely in every dimension by creating sustainable solutions not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. This is what we believe in, here and now. Our journey has only just begun. Join the Urban Air Mobility Project.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm super excited to be here with you today, not just because I'm really in love with the beautiful city of Budapest, but also because we share the same passion. We share the passion for drones, but also in a wider range for mobility. And if we look at mobility in the 21st century, it becomes more and more a fundamental need of us people, of human beings. Not just in the question how we get from A to B, but if you look at smartphones or society trends like flexible working environments, home office and all of these things, people want to be more and more mobile. And when you look at this picture, we can see that not only in the megacities of this world, but especially in cities like New York, Shanghai, Mexico cities, big metropolitan areas, this fundamental need for mobility cannot really be satisfied anymore in a very proper and nice way. At least it's not any longer efficient. And we think that going up in the air can be a real, sensible and meaningful solution to help contributing these problems. Not just by solving everything, but by bringing added value to get more sustainably, more efficient, with very little infrastructure investment, into the direction to improve the life of the people and get them better from A to B, instead of spending 2 or 3 hours in traffic jams. Better to spend the time with your beloved ones, with your families, or things which you like to do. Behind the Urban Air Mobility Project, behind these air taxis, passenger drones, however you want to call them, we call them AAVs or eVTOLs. A lot of you are familiar with that, I think. A lot of you also know these companies I'm showing you here. In the project you have primarily one of the most well-known companies in the urban air mobility area, which is EHang. EHang is one of the most successful startups from the Asian region, based in Guangzhou, one of the 3 largest cities of China, based in the southern Silicon Valley area. And EHang is a software company, world-leading in software ecosystems and environments for autonomous flying. To put the hardware expertise on top, EHang started recently a cooperation with FACC. FACC is an Austrian-Chinese aerospace company since 30 years, focused on hardware and manufacturing. And here you bring together the best of both worlds to make this dream, this vision, this idea of passenger drones a reality. And maybe for some of you it sounds like science fiction, but believe me, we are a few weeks in front of serial production, and we have thousands of pre-orders. And we are already operating, but more on that later on. What you can see here is a so-called drone firework. It was in the framework of the partnership signing of both companies. On the right, the Canton Tower, one of the biggest buildings in that area. It's just 300, but we can coordinate up to 5,000. There are only 2 companies right now who are able to do that. One is Intel, one is EHang, and every day we are matching who has the next world record. This looks like a digital firework, like a nice thing to see, and it's amazing when you see it in real life. Maybe one day we can do one in Budapest together with you. But it shows much more. It shows the capability of steering and controlling and commanding thousands of small or bigger drones in a small and dedicated area, precisely without crashing a few centimeters beside each other and making perfect formations. And it strengthens the confidence of the people into transporting goods, and as a next step, people as well. This is why this topic is so important. The topic is not new. EHang was the first company who presented the first autonomous aerial vehicle at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 2016, and since then has created a big buzz in the industry around the topic. Here you can see some of the media reportings we were confronted with. Since then, the product itself was much more developed. You can see the difference with the 4 arms outside, and the next product, which is the serial model, which will be distributed in a few weeks, our EHang 216. It is one out of many, and for sure right now the most advanced one. What you see here can transport 2 people, including luggage, so a total payload of 270 kilograms, has a weight of 380 kilograms, can fly at top speed of 160 kilometers per hour with an average speed of 100 kilometers per hour, and has a battery duration of around 30 minutes. Meaning, depending on an environment, you can reach plus minus 50 kilometers right now, which is especially for the urban environment definitely sufficient and enough. You have 16 rotors, and you have a lot of redundancy systems integrated. It's fully electric, meaning 0 emission. Each of these 16 rotors is connected with a separately connected electrical engine with a separated connected battery. Meaning, if one of them stops working, it still continues to fly. In total, we have 7 rotors which can stop working, and the system still keeps you up in the air. Because at the end of the day, we all know the biggest asset and the most important aspect in aerospace is safety and security, and we don't want to compromise on that. So we have a lot of hardware-based redundancy systems. But the real rocket science is in the algorithms and the artificial intelligence, which is making this thing fly fully autonomously. So technological-wise, you have an app, you press a button, it flies without a pilot, without a remote control, fully AI-powered to you. You get inside, you see a screen looking like Google Maps, you press a button, and it brings you, if it's in the distance, wherever you want to go. Yeah, and here you see a look on the interior, how it's going to look like, and also the little trunk in the back. We had a lot of testing under many different environments. The pictures here are from the model 184 with the 4 arms, going up to wind speeds in the strength of a Chinese typhoon. So wind speeds you don't even find here in Europe, and all of them were successful. In total, we have 7,000 flight hours, 2,000 of them with people inside, and we're already operating in China in 4 cities, transporting regularly people from A to B. Not commercialized yet, but very close to. And the regulatory part, I think, is one we want to talk a bit later on a bit more. Up to night flight tests, because it's self-steering itself with a combination of radars, GPS, telco networks, sensors, distant sensors, cameras. So also a lot of hardware and software-sided redundancies which create a better experience for the flight, a better experience for the customer, and of course a much higher level of safety. At the end, still we don't need the human being, but we want the human being. And what you see here is not a picture of NASA, but it's one of our command and control centers in Guangzhou, where our headquarters is, where whole operations of the drones, no matter of which scale, is overviewed, monitored, commanded, and controlled. And in the worst case scenario, when a human being has to interfere, it can be done via here. So the passenger up in the air is never alone. What you see here is how this topic got traction in the recent months. The figures are from a study from Roland Berger, and most of you know there are dozens of studies outside from McKinsey and Deloitte, and you name them. And all of these figures are showing a trend. And here we can see how the topic of urban air mobility, because drones are on the agenda since a decade almost, but the topic of urban air mobility and eVTOLs really skyrocketed in the recent months, and we are humble, but at the same hand proud to be among the leading companies worldwide right now. The topic is not something new. The dream of flying cars is something what us as human beings is guiding us, is following us since many decades. And when you look on the left, you see the cover from the 1950s of one of the most popular engineering magazines. And on the right, you see one cover of the late 2000s with our EHang 184 on the cover page. And now you can ask, okay, we're talking since decades about this, why should it work now? Because now we have the core layer technologies for that. In the software, in the algorithms, in the e-mobility, in the lightweight construction, and in the manufacturing, among many others. And at the end of the day, these core layers are enabling us to make this dream of us human beings, which we have since decades, come true. Here are some more figures on the market. And as mentioned, these are figures from the Roland Berger study. All of these figures are, let's say, or to put it in a different way, it is a topic where all of these figures are very vague, because nobody knows how big this thing is going to be in 10 or 15 years. But all of these things have one in common. And some are bigger than these numbers and some are smaller. They all are really, really huge. And they all show that the potential is huge for us as drone industry to be active in that market, but at the end of the day to improve the life of peoples, because we really believe that only technologies will succeed which bring added value to our everyday lives. 32 billion according to Roland Berger. Here a few more numbers on possible delivered drones. Almost 100,000 in 2050. These figures are quite small, to be frank. Others show much higher numbers. And today, 2019, we already alone, as one single company, have a few thousand pre-orders globally. What you can see here is that the comparison with a helicopter is a good one. And frankly speaking, the innovation in this topic lies not in the way how we bring people from A to B. We do this since many decades with helicopters. But through technology, we make the way how we get from A to B affordable for everybody. Because a helicopter is pretty expensive. From the CapEx, from the OpEx, as well as complex from training of pilots and everything what comes with that. And here we're creating a system which is lean from the aircraft itself and from everything what comes with the ecosystem, more on the ecosystem later, which makes the functionality of a helicopter affordable for everybody. And I think that's a very nice goal. Imagine how often have you thought, I don't want to be in traffic jam, I don't want to drive this edgy and curvy route from A to B. Would be nice to have a helicopter. But most of people cannot afford that. And the truth is, in Europe, we are not so used to cities where a lot of helicopters are flying around. But this is a global topic. And if you look at cities like Sao Paulo in Brazil, for example, there it's already part of everyday life that people go with the helicopter from A to B, but only business people and richer people who can afford it. And we want to make this available to everybody. Additionally to the affordability segment or factor, it's much, much, much quieter. We right now have a noise level of 85 decibel, meaning when you take a V8 motor driving through a narrow street, it's much louder than that. And we will continue to reduce this noise level. Frankly speaking, you hear it a bit when you start and when you land. This has to be considered, but when you're 50 meters up in the air, it doesn't disturb you any longer. And I was flying a lot of times myself, and believe me, it's really enjoyable. It's a lot safer, and it's much more reliable. At the end of the day, it's all about consumer and people acceptance. What you see here are figures from a Deloitte study, very representative sample, and it shows us, even today, that around 50% of the people would love to use the services today and not wait for tomorrow. While around 30% have no opinion, because the topic is new. You don't read about it every day in the newspaper. It's starting right now. Autonomous driving is already out. Now we are with autonomous flying, where I personally think it will come much faster than autonomous driving, as it's less complex or differently complex. And you have skeptics of 15 and 9% who somewhat or strongly disagree. And their reservation is mainly because of the noise level in the cities and the disturbance which comes with that, but also with passive safety, meaning not safety for the passenger, but safety for the person who is walking below, or safety for the person who is living below. These are concerns we have to take very serious. We are taking serious in the industry, also in our talks with the regulators, and we are in discussions with almost every regulator globally. These are things we are really, really tackling, because we need a critical dialogue and we need a critical discussion in the public to make this come true. At the end of the day, if you compare autonomous driving with autonomous flying, with the first one, it's about implementing a new technology into an ecosystem or into a traffic system which has been growing over decades. In autonomous flying, we need to create a whole new ecosystem. And here, the aircraft is, of course, the core, but not the only pillar we need. And we try to cluster this a bit, which you can see on these graphics. And the companies involved can really well tackle the left part. And for the right part, we are right now searching for a lot of partners. And when you look on the upper right corner, 3 weeks ago, we signed a global partnership with the Vodafone Group to make also the 5G networks and the telco networks ready for that. What are the applications? Of course, passenger transport, but also touristical use cases, where we have a lot of requests to use it for that. But of course, medical, rescue, emergency situations, and last but not least, logistics. And if we have a short look on the logistics area, because this we are also active in, this is one of our Falcon 4 Zero drones, and we're in a partnership with DHL in China, and we are in real operations transporting goods of up to 5 kilograms from A to B. In European newspaper, you often read Amazon is working on drone deliveries. In China, we are doing it. It's already happening, together with a big partner like DHL. You can already order your groceries, your food, by an app. All of you, when you take the plane next week to Guangzhou, you download the app, you press the button, and you get your pizza, your burger, or your coffee delivered by a drone. And believe me, drone coffee tastes much better. And of course, we have some promotions in use. This box was developed in between EHang and DHL. It's fully automatic, and the whole system is an ecosystem where you don't have to interfere as a human being. When the package is delivered, you get a WeChat notification, you go down and you scan your smartphone and you get your package. Here a bigger image of our Falcon delivery drone, which is able to transport up to 5 kilograms. But small-scale logistics is not enough. We are also aiming for large-scale logistics, and our model 184L is capable of transporting 260 kilograms via a distance of 25 kilometers. Fully autonomous, no human interference necessary. We have a lot of trials going on with huge oil companies, for example, where we can replicate helicopters going from the shore to offshore oil platforms and transporting goods, for example, but also people with the air taxi, as you saw, for a much more reasonable pricing. But also in harbor logistics, in area logistics, this is a very interesting solution. And here you see an overview of all of our cargo models. This is one of our brand new ones. It can fly up to 2,000 kilometers and transport 600 kilograms. Of course, no more multi-rotor concept working in that distances. You need fixed wing and you need landing area. What are the thrust blockers to make this huge vision, which partly started already, come true? Of course, maybe I should add technology on this slide, because we still have some things we need to solve, especially inside the ecosystem, not so much with the vehicle, where we are very far. But the major areas are regulation on the one hand. It's a totally new area for everybody. For the regulator, for the industry, for the people, for politicians. And we don't want to compromise on safety by rushing with rules and putting somebody into danger. But even strict rules, we can make fast. By treating this topic seriously, and when we talk to regulators, we tell them always, we don't want that you make less strong rules than in normal aerospace and compromise on safety. No, give us the strictest rules you ever made in history, because we have no problem with fulfilling them. But please give it to us fast, because the whole world is rushing for a huge, huge, huge disruptive technology and market here. And at the end of the day, what we are doing is nothing less than 100 years ago the invention of car, or even earlier the invention of railway. They also had a lot of problems. Even people ran away when they heard the railway coming. Here we are also facing a lot of problems, but we can solve them, and it's worth to solve them, and let's solve them quick, because at the end it will really improve our everyday lives. And this brings me to the next point, which is even more important than the regulation itself. It's the human acceptance. And this is why we also started cooperation with several media groups in Europe. One of them is the Pro7 group from Germany, where we try to bring this topic into the public, to discuss with people, to also have a critical discussion, a critical dialogue, take their problems serious, take their concerns serious, try to solve them, and create this new environment for the good of everybody. And I'm super happy to be here. Thanks so much for listening, and let's work together on an exciting future. Thank you so much. Köszönöm.